welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Tiara Shakira Reviews, and on this channel I review TV shows and movies. So if you're into that, grab a snack, grab something to drink, and let's get into it, y'all. I'm trying to figure out a new intro for this channel, so if it's a little different, I'm trying to see what sticks and what works, so yes, on this channel I review TV shows and movies, y'all, and that's movies from the past and movies that are kind of new and maybe movies that are new. I don't know, we'll see about that. And I say that because it's like, I don't know, I'm not really a fan of the new movies and TV shows that are coming out now, but who knows. So yeah, so in this video we are going to be discussing Life Size. Okay, this movie was made in 2000, my year. Yeah, it's TVG, which is, I think it low-key should be like TVPG, but that's neither here or there. Okay, so I'm gonna do my best ability to go through the whole movie. Okay, so I'm not gonna go through like every single little detail, so if I miss something, I'm sorry about that. Honestly, you should probably go watch the movie yourself first and maybe come back and then we discuss things that popped out to us. But it's not going to be a by play type of video, y'all. That's not me. I just basically just summarize the movie. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay. So let's get started. So
thing Casey wanted was a doll.
This is Eve. Let's go to the mall. I'll put her in someplace real special.
But this was one birthday gift, guaranteed to keep on giving.
I'm Eve, and you're my special friend. You better watch it, lady.
Now, one tall toy.
You're not anatomically correct.
And one girl with an attitude.
This is all a big mistake, and I'm turning you back.
You can't do that.
Are gonna have to learn to play nice.
Okay, surprise me.
That does it. I'm out of here.
I'm a great secretary.
This is a disaster.
Please help me.
The Parent Traps Lindsay Lohan and Tyra Banks in a magical comedy that proves that great things really do come in small packages.
What happened to my purse?
Disney presents Life Size, now on video and DVD.
So we started the movie off with a commercial of dolls on a beach. You have boy dolls and girl dolls. They're all like on the beach doing whatever, living life. Say it's like a knockoff version of Barbie, and I say that because the doll can do anything. She's a lawyer, she's an astronaut, she is a whatever you want her to be. That's what she's a doctor, she's a veterinarian, whatever you need her to be, that's what she's gonna be. Gives you Barbie. And I don't mean like knockoff and like Barbie is better, because it's not, she's not, because this is a black doll. Her name is Eve. She is a black doll, which is I love so much. And yeah, it's crazy to me that Life Size isn't talked about enough. I don't know if it's just because of like Tyra Banks and everybody not really rocking with her right now in this situation, just because of like scandals and stuff. I don't know, but it's really not talked about enough, and that's interesting to me. Well, after the commercial, we pan to a group of girls that are looking at the dolls in a store window in the mall. They were talking about how some of them wanted the doll, but then there was one girl was like, oh no, I don't want a doll, I want some type of electronics. I forgot what she says. And then we pan over to the store owner, who's like, oh no, like I don't know what to do with these dolls. These kids don't want the dolls anymore. They want all the Apple and this, that, and the third products. Which I thought was kind of funny, because like, that was 2000. Mind you, that was when the movie was made. I don't know what year this movie is based off of, if that makes sense. Like the year, it was 2000 when it came out for us, but what year in the movie were they on? But I think that's kind of funny, because it's like she was saying that, I'm gonna just say 2000. She was saying that in 2000 she would be very disappointed to see these kids in 2020. I'm gonna say 2025, because we're like 5 days into 2026, so that doesn't really count. So after that, we switch scenes to we're on a football field. Two teams are playing, and two of the team members from the same team are fighting, going back and forth. So they're benched for the rest of the game. And this is where we learn that one of the people that were fighting was a girl, and not only was she a girl, but she is our main character, and her name is Casey. I didn't get the dude that she was arguing with name, just because I don't think he was a main character or even like a side character. I don't even think he was a supporting character. No shade to the story, because we only see him in that scene and then at the beginning. I mean, at the end. Like, so we only see him twice. So it's like, you know what I mean? I don't think that his name needed to, I don't think I needed to talk about him or say his name. I didn't get his name anyway, so. But anyways, they don't like each other. As they're going back and forth arguing, we hear Casey literally say, "I hate you more than I hate dolls." That's crazy. Because was it necessary? No. Was it that serious? No, Casey. It wasn't. But then we meet Casey's dad, whose name is Ben. Yo, tell me why I thought his name was Bob until he actually meets Eve and then Eve says his name. Because I feel like I heard one of Ben's co-workers call him Bob, but that's neither here or there. I literally had to go back in my notes and erase every Bob and put Ben. Ghetto. But we see that he's very dedicated to his work. Like that is his life. Sorry, not sorry, but that is his job is his life, right? And you know, then he remembers he has a kid. And I'm not saying that in like the sense that he just didn't care about his daughter, but I mean, rather you had to or not, which is personally, I don't think he had to. I think he wanted to, and I think what happened in the movie plays a role in why he did that. I don't think he needed to. He had a good stable job. They weren't broke. They lived in a really nice house. And again, it didn't give. He was struggling when it came to finance, so it didn't seem like he had any financial problems or nothing like that. So he just generally just would rather be at work than be with his child. I don't care what nobody says. So I'm not gonna edit that out just because I don't think that I need to, y'all. But I will take back what I said. I don't think he prefers to be at work. I think because of what happened, I'm not going to say what happened yet because we will talk about it later on in the movie. But I think because what happened, he felt like so, how do I say this? He would rather be at work than being at home because he realizes like what has happened has affected his family. And when you are in that, you have to come to terms with it. And I feel like he would rather be at work so he doesn't really have to come to terms with it because he's not in the presence of the problem, if that makes sense. And you could say that, oh, it might not be that, it's not that deep, but I don't care. That's how I see it. That's how I interpreted it. So that's what I'm saying. We see that he is in a meeting where he is stressed out about work. He's a lawyer, I assume. I really didn't catch one. I'm sorry. I'm gonna assume he's a lawyer because they was asking Eve if she was a lawyer. Sorry, I went ahead, but I needed to say that. But so he's a lawyer and they're working on a case right now that they really need to win. One of his co-workers, Drew, invites him out to go eat with them after seeing how stressed out he is about work, because it's like, hey, like sometimes you just need a break. Let's just take a break, because you know, sitting up in here looking at this screen or looking at papers all day, rereading over the same lines, going on the same lines, it's starting to look the same. You know what I mean? So let's just go out, let's have some good lunch, refresh our minds, blank our minds, and then come back to it, which is, I feel like that's easier said than done, because when something's on your mind, it's on your mind. It doesn't matter if you put the papers away, close your work, and go home. It's still going to be on your mind, especially if you're really passionate about what you're doing. So like, I get Drew, but also like, you can't stop somebody's mind from lingering. But I get what she was trying to do. But of course, Drew declines the offer, you know, because he wanted to focus on the task at hand. He wanted to give his all to it, because this case came with promotions and stuff like that. So he's like, I want it. Then Drew goes to ask Bob. Oh, see, goes to ask Ben, if Ben and his daughter could come over to her house tomorrow night for dinner. But then Ben is like, no, I can't go. We can't go over there tomorrow night because tomorrow's night is Casey's birthday and it's just supposed to be us two and we're gonna have this great dinner and this, that, and the third. So Drew was like, oh, you really are a great dad, you know, this, that, and the third, you know, to each his own. I'm not gonna say he's not a good dad or he is. I'm not gonna say that. All I can say is that Drew wanted Ben bad. That's all I'm gonna say right there. So after Drew leaves, we're left with his other co-workers. His name is Richie and Ben. And Richie is like, oh, she wants you. This girl's been here for just 6 months and she's already ready to cook for you, which is true. But Ben was like, you know, no, I'm not ready for all that. You know, Drew is a nice girl, but I'm just not ready for all that. And I'm like, ready? What do you mean? Of course, you know, we're taking a turn on this because Disney loves doing this, right? So then we find out that Then we find out that Ben's wife not of 2 years, sorry, what is going on? Ben says that he's not ready, you know, due to the fact that his wife passed away. Okay. That's what I'm assuming because he doesn't really say that. But I mean, like, come on, like, I feel like there's a difference between like somebody leaving you and then somebody dying. So so I'ma say she passed. Okay. So then Richie goes to say that like, hey, like, I think your wife Karen would want you to move on and start dating. It's been 2 years, this, that, and the third. And my thing on that is I don't know. I just think it's a little weird because to me personally, this goes for anybody, rather that be relationship wise, romantically, or friendship, or just family. You can't tell somebody, like, you don't know how important somebody is in somebody else's life to them. You get what I'm saying? The thing is, you can't tell somebody how to grieve, how to heal. You know what I mean? You can't tell somebody when it's time for them to move on because we don't know how important of a role that person played in somebody's life. So to me, it was kind of just like, why? And he didn't tell him to move on or get over it in a sense. Well, he did tell him to move on. It's time to move on. But it's like, how can we sit up here and, I don't know, like, and then they had a kid together, they were married. And my thing is, again, like, you can't, like, you just can't. Like, it doesn't matter how much time has passed. You know what I'm saying? And especially my thing is, if you're not helping them to move on, don't sit up here and just tell me to move on or it's time to move on. It's time to get over it. If you're not helping me to get over it, you get what I'm saying? If you're just sitting up here telling me, oh, it's time, you know, so-and-so wouldn't want you to keep living like this. But it's like, if you're not willing to help me, because grieving is a terrible thing. One day you're good. 1 month you're good. A year you could be good for a whole year, and then year 2 comes around and the whole year is ruined because all you can think about is that person who has passed away. And if you're not willing to help, be there through my grieving process, don't sit up here and try to tell me when it's time for me to go talk to somebody else, when it's time for me to move on, because you can't tell me. You don't know how important that person was in somebody's life. That's all I'm saying. And maybe I'm overthinking it, I don't know, but I just think that was a little weird. Plus, Ben and Karen had a whole daughter. You get what I'm saying? So even if Ben was to move on, he has to think about the fact that, like, hey, my daughter's mom passed, my wife, so I can't just be out here going on dates, having women around when I have a whole daughter to still think about. You get what I'm saying? It's like, that was her mother. So I can't just be, it's not just him. It would be different if it was just him, but it's not just him. So I don't know. That kind of rubbed me the wrong way a little bit. At home to Casey working on something at her desk. Then Ben comes in and, you know, he's like, oh, I guess, you know, we're both working late on something. And, Casey is kind of mad because we learned that Ben missed her game. So, I mean, I would be mad too, because why are you missing my game? I get that Ben wants the promotion, but at the same time, like, you got to be there for your child. You are literally her only living parent. You get what I'm saying? So you deciding to, like, put her on the back burner after her mom passed, even though, yes, it's been 2 years, but still, like, he used to go to her games all the time. They made that very apparent that he used to be at her games all the time, and then he just stopped. So for her to lose one of her parents physically and then low-key lose another parent mentally, I think that that's worse. I think it's worse to lose a parent that's physically still there, because when you lose a parent like physically, like if you lose a parent physically, it's like dang, they're not here, but at least they're not here to ignore me. You get what I'm saying? But like losing a parent mentally, it's like you see that person literally there, physically there every single day, but you don't get any interaction out of them. You don't get I'm not saying that happened with her, but I'm just saying in general, like I think that losing a parent mentally would be more challenging and harder than losing a parent physically, because I don't know, that's just how I feel. Let me know if I'm like how y'all would feel about that. That's how I feel, because it's like, can you imagine your parent going from supporting, being there every time, every chance, every time, and then all of a sudden just flat out nothing? And it's not like you have another parent to fall back on, which is I guess that's what I'm trying to say. She doesn't have another parent to fall back on because her mom has now passed, and now her dad is not there. So it's just a lot. My thing is, he ends up asking her if she won, and she says yes, that she's in the playoffs. My thing is, I feel like he should have took her out to celebrate. I don't know what time it was. I don't know, but I feel like he actually should have taken her out to celebrate, because like you made playoffs. That's amazing. Like how many of y'all kids, and this is no shade, but obviously only one team or two teams can make the playoffs, so it's like you need to celebrate that. And yes, I get her birthday is technically tomorrow, but still, like if you can't physically show up to her games, show up after, show up in any way that you can. And it's like, no, it doesn't change the fact that he wasn't there for her game, but at least you still took the time out and effort out to show her that you are proud of her by taking her out. Even if that meant taking her out 2 days in a row. And I'm not pocket watching, but I feel like he has it. So the group of girls from earlier in the movie, we see them walking down the street, going the opposite way of Casey. They see Casey before Casey sees them, and they are just nasty. They're not nasty to her, but they're talking about her in a nasty way, and I don't like that, because they're like, oh, and there goes the loner, and it's like, she does not messing with y'all no more. That don't make that girl a loner, but whatever. They call her a loner, and they're like, you know, ever since her mom died, she just ignores us. Like, get over it. But I will say, I could not get her name. I need to look up her name. One of the girls are like, hey, like, let's not do that. That's not nice. Like, let's not do that. So the girl who said let's not do that, she ends up running over to Casey, and asks her if she wants to go to the mall with them, and Casey says no, she doesn't, which is, you know, she doesn't have to say yes. And then the girl ends up asking like why you don't hang out with us anymore, which is, I mean, I feel like that is a valid question, because if we used to be cool and then you just stopped hanging out with me, it was like, what, why? But the way that they talked about like her mom passing, I would understand maybe why she stopped hanging out with y'all, because like, were y'all there for her when her mom passed? And before y'all start coming for me, they're not children. They're over the age of 10. You get what I'm saying? Like, they have to at least be like 12, 13. They could have been there for her. I knew at 12 that if like somebody died, be there for your friends. So I don't want to hear all that, oh, they're young, they're children, they don't understand. But no, they're not 5, they're not 6, okay? They understand. The whole group not being there for her is weird. Like, I don't care. So it's like, I kind of understand why she took a step back, because it doesn't seem like they was there for her. But you know, then the girl ends up asking Casey like, hey, why don't you hang out with us anymore? And I do feel like Casey, when Casey said what she said, I do kind of feel like it was a little off-putting, because I don't think she had to say it the way she did. It came off kind of nasty, like, I don't know. But Casey tells her that, you know, there's more to life than just shopping. And it's like, don't get me wrong, I totally agree, there is more to life than shopping. But I just don't like the way she said it. Like, I feel like it didn't have to be said like that. Like, yeah, it just didn't, it didn't have to give that. but it did. And she walked away from the girl, so it wasn't even like the girl could say anything back. Not saying that I wanted her to say anything back, but she couldn't even say anything to what Casey had said to her, which is, I think they should have let her say something, not in the sense of being messy, but maybe like, wow, that's what you think of us, or something like that. Because honestly, it seemed like the girl kind of had some common sense up there, so I feel like it would have been cool for them to have dialogue with what Casey said, because it was kind of just like, that was it. So after Casey like walks away from old girl, she continues to walk to this store that's called Past Page Bookstore. So that's the name of the bookstore. She goes in and she's looking around. She goes into the back and she sees a book called Hawkcroft. I don't know. I know I'm not saying that right. But she sees the book. It's called Hawkcraft's Book of the Dead. She opens the book to see that it costs $150, and then she starts digging in her pockets, and she only has, what is that, $63. So that's what she had on her, $63. Okay, so what do you call this, y'all? Because I don't think I don't know, because she didn't steal it, but then she did, because she gave what she had. So I put, we don't see her stealing, but what we do see her do is she gets out like I'm gonna call it a sticky note, a piece of paper, whatever. She pulls it out, she writes something on it, and then next thing we know, we see her leaving the bookstore. We literally can see the book in the, like, on her back. So like, we knew, you know what I'm saying, because we seen the shape of the book. But when she gets out the bookstore, she walks a couple of steps like from the front door, and then she takes the book out of her bag, like out of her what's that thing called, out of her jacket. And then we clip back to the bookstore, and we see the bookstore owner going to the back to look for something, maybe for a customer. He's looking around and he sees that the Book of the Dead is gone, and then he sees a little sticky note that said, I owe you $87. So I had wrote this, but I don't mean it in like a funny way, because it's not funny. But it's not funny. I wrote, this girl was trying to summon her mama back to life. And I'm like, OMG, I don't know how to feel about this, because it's clear she hasn't gotten over her mom's death, which is totally fine. Like, I'm not saying that she needs to be over her mom's death, but she also hasn't learned how to properly deal with her mom's death. And it's like, what is her father, has her father, anybody, auntie, grandma, somebody not, stepped in or tried to step in, see how she's doing? It was kind of just them two, which is crazy to me, but whatever. We get back home and she's going through the book, and yes, she's seeing all that she would need for her summoning of her mom. So then we skip to the birthday dinner, which is very thankful person, but the dad made it seem as if this birthday dinner was going to be something spectacular, something that they don't do often. Maybe they don't sit at the table and eat together often. Me personally, I thought they were going to go out and eat. I didn't think that they was going to have a home cooked meal with just them two sitting at the table. And I don't mean that in like a I'm picking, I'm laughing, this, I don't mean it like that, but I just would have thought it would have been something better. I don't even mean better, just something different from what they used to. But again, maybe they're not used to eating dinner together, because he did get home really late the night before. That seemed like that was something that happens often, I would like to think. So, don't come for me, y'all, please. But, hey man, that's what it is, right? Dinner table, she's blowing out her candles, and she's, of course, makes a wish. Then she tells her dad that she wishes that her mom could come back, because, like, I mean, that's reasonable. Casey tries to talk about her mom, but I feel like Ben shuts that down, like, immediately. Like, we're not doing this. We've already talked about this. You're not gonna do this. So he shuts it down quickly. But we are told that she has been through she has been to a therapist, but we find out that she doesn't think that he's a real therapist, more like a shrink, and that he has bad breath and he just doesn't know what he's doing and this, that, and the third, and she just doesn't like the man, which is reasonable. But I personally think, though, if she didn't like the man, that's cool. She doesn't have to go back to the man, but she needed to find somebody that she liked, because this what she was doing. Like, we have to, at some point, it gets to a point, because this is not the first time that she has tried to summon her mom. And he says that they sit down, they have the conversation, they talk about it. That's why she was going through a therapist, because she has tried to summon her mom before. And my thing is, if that's not something Ben is into, if that's not something Ben encourages, why not try to get her help? Like, if you think she's crazy for wanting to summon her mom, why aren't you taking the necessary steps to get the girl the help, so maybe she will stop trying to summon her mom? Because some people, they live like that. They like to summon people, and that's what you do. But other people, they find that weird and creepy and strange. And it's like, Ben, if you're not okay with that, then you need to step in and get her the help that she deserves, and not pocket watching. But I feel as if he would be able to afford it. Okay, he then goes and pulls out some football tickets to a game, just, change the subject, get it off that topic. Cool, whatever. So they're reminiscing about, going to the games with his wife and her mom, and then the doorbell rings. So Ben goes to get it. He opens the door and we see that it is Drew. And I roll my eyes, because my thing is, he made it very known yesterday that today was his daughter's birthday. He wanted to spend the day with his daughter, nobody else but his daughter, because it was her birthday. Why did Drew come to his house? I mean, we find out why, but still, I don't really think that is, I just don't. So he opens the door to Drew and he's like, oh, hey, Drew. She says that he left some type of paper at the job, and she would have waited, but they needed it by Monday. And he's like, oh, okay, cool. That's cool. I can do it now. So come in. My thing is, why didn't she just come? If we're going to assume that today is Friday, because she said we need it for the weekend, right? So we're going to assume that today, her birthday was on Friday. My thing is, she could have came Saturday, gave it to him Saturday. If he already let you know that it was just him and his daughter that day, why are you trying to, why did you have to do that? That wasn't necessary. I don't care what anybody say. She could have waited till Saturday. He told you that was his daughter's birthday. He wanted to spend it with his daughter. Respect that. So when they get inside, Drew says happy birthday to Casey, and then she gives her a birthday gift. So in my mind, I feel like this was premeditated. It's not that I don't like Drew. I don't have no problem with Drew, but I just personally, I just feel like it was premeditated, because it's one thing. Well, I guess it is good not to just show up to somebody's house knowing that it's their birthday and not bring something. I don't know. I still feel like it was premeditated. And I'm not saying premeditated like in a bad way, but I just feel like she should have just respected the fact that it was the girl's birthday, and he had made it very clear that he just wanted to spend time with her. I feel like personally she should have just waited until the next day. She could have bought the present over the next day, and happy belated birthday. Boom, that's simple. But I also will say that I feel like Ben should have been like, hey, Drew, I told you yesterday at, after the meeting that it was just me and my daughter day. Why are you here? Listen to what she said. And then he could have literally been like, hey, man, bring it tomorrow and we'll talk about it, or I'll do it for you tomorrow, which would have been Saturday. He could have did that. But I get it. The plot is the plot. So, whatever. So she says her birthday and then hands her a gift. Who doesn't know Casey, to be honest? Like, we have to really think. When we met Drew and Ben, it was as if they were only just business partners. It was always kept in the office, right? Because even Rich was like, hey, you need to give her a chance. It came off as if she has been trying, maybe, but he just kind of like kept, no, I don't want to. So there's no way that Drew and Casey had met before this. So no, she does not know. Casey does not know. No, I'm sorry. Well, Casey doesn't know Drew, but Drew does not know Casey. That's not the problem. The problem is that Drew assumed that Casey would like dolls because Drew used to like dolls when she was younger. That's what I put, but then we later find out that she used to collect them. So, I mean, it's basically the same thing, but kind of different. Me personally, I feel like Casey should have just, no, I'm sorry. I keep wanting to flip their names. I feel like Drew should have just gotten Casey a gift card to like a fast food place, something like that. I know it wouldn't have fit in for the theme of the movie. I get it. But we're just speaking like it doesn't matter. I don't think she should have gotten her a doll. I feel like when you don't know a child, just get them a gift card. Get them a gift card. McDonald's, Burger King, freaking Toys R Us. I feel like that would have been more acceptable than just picking out a toy from her. Because to be honest, I don't really know. I'm gonna assume that she has to be like 12 or 13. Some 12 or 13 year olds is very different. It's either they love toys, they love to dress up, they love dolls, or they don't. There is no in between. You get what I'm saying? It's very rare. So it's like you don't know what she likes, So why not just get her a gift card and call it a day? And then my thing that kind of irritated me with the whole situation also was the dad. Because it's like, I know we're supposed to be appreciative of what people give you, but also at the same time, like, your daughter doesn't like dolls. You know it. So like sitting up here lying to Drew, telling her, oh, she loves it, she likes it. That was really a really good. No, why are we lying? Like, know better so you can do better next time. That's literally it. Like the dad should have been like, oh, thank you for the gift, but she's not really a girl doll like that. She's not into the Barbies and all the dress up, and she's not into that. That's not what she's into. And I feel like that could have just been, oh, okay, I'm sorry, next time I try harder. You get what I'm saying? Or not harder, but I'll do better next time. But yeah, I understand the whole like be grateful for what people give you, but I feel like we need to also like understand that like just because somebody gives you something, that does not mean you should, oh my goodness, thank you. Yes, be nice, because you don't need to be rude, but like also I feel like we should be able to be like, oh, that's not something I'm into. I guess like Casey is kind of thrown off about the whole doll thing. We get to her room and Casey is not playing games. She literally puts everything that she would need to summon her mom up on her dresser. She has the altar. She has her brush with her mom's hair in it. I'm gonna assume that she was going to start doing it, but then there was a knock at her door and she jumps into bed like she's about to lay down. Drew comes in and she's like, I just want to tell you good night, this, that, and the third. Mind you, her own daddy didn't come in to tell her good night. But okay. But here's my thing though, and I'm sorry, I know Drew, why did she feel the need that she needed to go and tell Casey goodnight? Please tell me if I'm the only one that feels like a type of way about that. Like, I don't understand why she felt like she needed to tell the girl goodnight. I just don't. I'm sorry, but I just don't. But okay, she goes up there, she tells her goodnight, and then she starts looking around the girl's room. Another red flag, because why? Say goodnight from the door. She didn't have to even come in. But she's looking around the room. She's like, oh, wow, you have so many trophies, this, that, and the third. For some weird reason, she just has to touch things. My thing is, though, at our big ages, why are we going and touching people's stuff? Why couldn't you look, say, wow, you have a lot of things, and keep it pushing? She's up there touching her stuff. Drew knocks down Casey's trophies and stuff like that. Everything just goes flying everywhere. So it's a big mess. Drew ends up messing up Casey's altar of her mom and their hairbrush and all this stuff. Casey packs everything up and she's like, oh, I have to go wash. I have to go clean up now. Which is, I really don't understand what she had to clean up. But that was just a way to get her to leave the room. So when Casey leaves, she leaves Drew in her room alone. Drew sees the Eve doll laying down on the on the dresser. My thing is, though, she was like, oh my gosh, Eve. And then she picks the doll up. She sees the brush, picks the brush up and starts brushing her hair. I don't know if she was trying to imply that Casey just didn't care about the doll and Casey just threw her on the dresser, but that's really not what happened, because Drew messed up all of her stuff on there. Everything came flying down and it hit the Eve doll, and the Eve doll fell. That's how she fell. Casey didn't just come in and throw her up on a cabinet or dresser and was like, forget her. No, Drew, you did that. But Drew brushed her hair. Of course, hair comes out. Drew caused herself placing the Eve doll onto like a mannequin stand so she can stand up, and she puts her on her nightstand. Another red flag, because why do you feel like you need to place something in my room where you want it to be? No, we're not doing that. And no, I'm not trying to say Drew is a bad person. I'm not trying to say that I don't like her, but to me, like, when you do dumb stuff, when you do stuff you need to get called out for, that's just what it is. And that's just what it is. I don't have no ill feelings towards Drew. I just don't like how I feel like they try to place her as a nice villain, if that makes sense. Like, the signs were there to be the villain, but then with the way that the story went, she had to be welcomed into the family, which is, can we talk about how she really wasn't even welcomed into the family? So it's like, I don't know. Actually, now that I think about it. But yeah, she comes in, she sits the Eve doll onto Casey's nightstand, and Casey walks in and she's like, what are you doing touching my stuff? Because what are you doing touching my stuff? Like, why are you still touching my stuff? Why are you even still in here, baby? You should have been gone, to be honest. When Casey left, she should have left, to be honest. Because why are you still in here? You already knocked everything down off my shelf. Why are you still in here? Drew finally leaves. Casey goes and she sets up her altar again. She starts chanting. My thing is, I don't understand how Casey didn't see the dark hair in the brush. Like, I don't understand how that wasn't. Casey puts fire to the candle and she starts to summon her mom. She's chanting, you know. As she's chanting, we start to see Eve move. The Eve doll move. We start to see her, you know, like, light up bright, this, that, and third. The next morning, where you see Casey is asleep in her bed, but she's like mumbling. She's still mumbling the chant and still like calling out to her mom. She turns around in her bed. She feels something like touching her. So she starts to wake up, and then she sees who it is and she starts screaming. Side note, I just want to know if Casey would have summoned her mom, how would that have, I generally just want to know how that would have went, because everybody in the town knows that Casey's mom, Karen, is gone. She passed. So if she would have summoned her back and she would have came back, what would have happened? Like, I mean, not even just outside world, but inside that home, what would have happened? Because it gets to a point, because it's like, oh. But then so Casey wakes up, she sees the Eve doll, and then... So y'all, I am editing right now, and this is just like a last minute comment, but also I just want to know, how did Eve end up in bed if she was on the dresser? Like, it would have made more sense for Eve to have been on the dresser. I know that may have sound really crazy, but it would have made more sense for her to be on the dresser or even on the floor on her face. You get what I'm saying? Because like, she doesn't know how to walk, because she is a doll. So it would have made more sense for her to like literally be sitting propped up on the dresser or on the floor on her face than it would have been for her to be laid in the bed. But that's neither here or there. She starts like ranting on about how she only had one opportunity to bring her mom back, this, that, and the third. I want to know why she only had one opportunity. Like, you had that big behind book, paragraphs of paragraphs, and you can only summon a person one time. Now I get if it was kind of just like a DNA thing, like the spell can only do the DNA one time, but wasn't the DNA altered when Eve's hair got put onto the brush? Also with the whole like DNA thing going back, so old girl Casey had a brush with her mom's hair in it. Okay, cool. And then Eve's hair ended up getting into the brush, which Eve is a doll, so there is no DNA on that Anyways, but whatever. Maybe I'm wrong, let me know. But I don't think that there is any DNA, right? I'm not understanding how Eve became human, but like nothing occurred with her mom, because the brush had a mixture of both the hair. So I don't understand how Eve was summoned, but maybe her mom's spirit wasn't, and I get it's not that type of movie. I totally understand that. But it just doesn't make any sense. It wasn't like Drew had, cleaned the brush and then used the brush on Eve. No, she just picked up the brush and brushed Eve's hair. I don't understand. That does not make any sense to me. She starts looking through the book or whatever. As Casey is looking through the book, trying to see if she can turn Eve back into a doll, she comes to find out that there is a volume 2 book, and it's like Book of the Woke, of the Wake, or something like that. Which I think is funny that you have to get 2 separate books for the dead and the people in the live, but whatever. Casey goes back to the store with Eve to try to get the second book. So in this scene, they get to the bookstore. Casey tells Eve to go in, look for this book. I can't go in because, she stole, basically. So Eve goes in, she's looking for the book. She sees the book and she asks the dude, hey, is this the book that I need? And the dude, the bookstore owner, is like, yeah, I would have had volume 1, but somebody stole it. And Eve is like, oh, I know who stole it. And then they go back outside and Eve points to Casey. So that makes Casey take off running because, like, dang, like, girl, you just ratted me out and I stole. So the dude is like, hey, come back, call the cops. Like, they stole. So Casey's taking off running. Eve is taking off running because she's like, Eve, don't leave me. Like, why would you leave me? So let's backtrack a little bit, and I'm doing that on purpose, but let's backtrack a little bit. So while Eve and Casey is literally walking to the store, Ben has gotten back home from running errands, and he's wanting to see if Casey is ready to hang out because they're supposed to hang out for the whole day. So he gets back home. He's knocking on Casey's door. She's not answering. So he goes in. He sees that she's not there. He looks around and then he sees the altar and all the mess that she has made. Not only does he see that, but he also sees the Book of the Dead. Now he realizes that she does not have that type of money to get the book. So he knows that the girl stole it. So he gets into his car to go back to the bookstore, past Page's bookstore, to return it because he knows that old girl stole it. And in the middle of that, he sees Casey running down the sidewalk, and then he sees her run out into traffic, fall, and then almost get hit by a truck. But before Casey could get hit by a truck, Eve steps in. She stops. She stands right there and does. And obviously that stops the truck, apparently, because all you need to do is do this, y'all. So every time you see somebody about to get hit by a truck, just stand right in front of that person and do this, because apparently that stops the truck automatically. Ben takes off to go see if Casey is okay because that's his child. And then he introduces himself to Eve. Eve kind of finds him attractive, which I think is kind of weird because she is a doll. And I don't know, because considering the fact that she was a doll and considering the fact that she doesn't know emotions, how does she know that he is being, I don't know. Is that part of emotions, like being attracted to somebody? That's an emotion, right? Or is it a feeling? I don't know. So maybe I'm wrong. But personally, I don't think she should have viewed him as like, oh, you're cute. But I guess so, because they have male dolls. I don't know. Don't come for me. Don't come for me. They end up going back to Casey's home just to make sure that she's okay and safe and all that. And while they are at the house, I guess Ben asked like, hey, where do you want to go? And Eve says, I want to go to the mall. So they end up going to the mall. And as they're going to the mall, Eve is looking through a window at some clothes that's really super cute. And she goes to get her money or her card, and she realizes that, hey, like, I don't have my card. So Ben is like, you know what, I'll give you a loan, basically. You pay me back when you get all your stuff, I get you're not from here, so woot. And then he offers her to stay in the guest house And that upsets Casey because the guest house was her mom's like little sanctuary where she would go, I guess, to paint and stuff like that. So she felt some type of way about that. Eve and Casey end up going into the store where Eve is trying on clothes, and that's like a little montage. And you know, Casey's having a little fun, but she's still kind of iffy and, you know, suspicious of Eve. Why, I don't know, when she's a doll, but that's neither here or there. I don't feel like Casey should have been suspicious of a doll, but I don't know. But side note, I wonder how Eve was going to repay Ben, because yeah, like, cause he said, you know, just pay back when you get your stuff, but whole time Eve ain't got no money. Even on her card, she ain't got no money. You know, her being financially stable depends on her owner. You get what I'm saying? Because if her owner is buying her the car and the dream house and all the clothes, that implies that she has it. But if her owner doesn't have enough money to do that, then she's gonna be a broke Eve. You get what I'm saying? So, and I don't mean that in like, no, I'm not trying to be shady, but it's true. Like when you buy your kids the dolls, it doesn't come with everything. You literally have to buy everything. Is sold separately, so you have to buy. So then we get back home after shopping, and Casey is on her computer looking up book 2. But I am a little confused though. Because when she was searching on her computer, she literally searched up Hofcraft's Books of the Dead, Volume 2, right? But when Eve was turned into human and she opened the book and she looked into it, it literally told her that she would have to get Hopcraft's Book of the Living or Book of the Awake or something like that, Volume 2. So why in the search engine did she look up the same book, just saying Volume 2, but in the book itself it said you have to look up the book? It's a whole nother book. You get what I'm saying? Like, I'm hoping that makes sense. And I was confused because that's weird. So we get to the next scene where Casey is like, Dad, I need to tell you something. I know you're not going to believe me, but I need to tell you something. He tells her that Eve is a doll. And of course, he doesn't believe her. But then Casey is like, you know, she gives him examples that she is a doll. And he is agreeing with her like, yeah, I mean, yeah. But then he goes to say, there's something sweet about her, so it's okay. Or I don't believe you. And that confuses me. Because my thing is, just because somebody is sweet, you're just going to look past what she's saying. So, okay, earlier that day, Ben had offered Eve a job as his assistant for the day. So Eve agreed because she was an assistant, you know, in her world. So we get to the day that she's supposed to be assisting. She is at her desk. She's typing, playing games or whatever. And then Richie comes in. And he's like flirting and doing all this and all that. And you know. Then Richie, Ben, and Eve is kind of in the same place. And Ben is like, hey, Eve, I need you in my office. Come here. Personally, I don't really understand why he called her to the office, but he does. And then Ben is like, oh, you know, are y'all? And Ben is like, no, like, you good. Like, go ahead, take your shot. So Richie is like, yeah, okay, I'm on that. So when Eve gets into the office and when Ben gets to the office, Ben sits down and Eve starts giving him a massage, you know, on his shoulders to release, you know, stress, you know, all that. And then Drew walks in and she's like, oh, am I interrupting something? Actually, you are, babes. Bye. But no, Drew walks in and basically tells Ben like, hey, it's time to go. And then Drew is like, I feel like I know you from somewhere. And she starts naming like all the places that she could know her. And Ben basically is like, oh no, she's out of town, so you ain't never seen her. And in the midst of Ben talking, we see Drew size, our girl, Eve up and down. And I'm like, Eve got these girls sweating, nervous. She intimidates her, period. So I'm gonna assume Ben left for a meeting, and that left Eve basically by herself. So Eve is in there messing up. Like, she's just she's not trying to, but she is messing up. She has papers everywhere. She's shredding. It's just a mess. Then we have Ellen, the receptionist, comes in and sees the big mess that Eve has made. So she pulls Eve out, calls her a taxi, and says, hey, like, girl, you got to go, because you're just messing up. And you know what, I respect that, because she was just messing up the building. Like, let's not sit up here and act like she was not destroying the building. Well, not destroying it, but she was making a mess, and anybody got time for that, because Ellen is gonna have to clean that up. You get what I'm saying? So it's like, no. So Eve is kind of like devastated, because she doesn't understand why she is messing up so badly. Like, she didn't, why? And then Ellen kind of feels bad, I guess, for her. So she goes over and gives her like a pep talk. And she basically is like, you know, we can't be good at everything. You know, we're human. That's not how we are. That's not who we're going to be. It's okay to not be good at everything. And then she goes in to tell Eve, like, if I looked the way you looked, maybe I could get the attention of somebody, you know, like, we all just lack in places, you know, basically. And he was like, well, you just need a little makeover. So Eve gave Ellen a makeover. Keep that in mind, you know, for later. I forgot to say this. Richie did invite Eve as his date to the party, the company party that it was having. So Eve decided to go, and you know, she's going around meeting people, talking to people, because why not? And she brings up world peace and how she's a good role model for young kids, young girls. And everybody's kind of looking at her like she's weird. But I'm like, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I don't understand why people was like so like off put with that. Like, I don't know. I think it was kind of weird. Like, I don't know. I don't understand why they was acting like the girl said something crazy. She kind of gets over it quickly, because they start playing a song that she really likes, and Eve asks Ben to go dance with her on the dance floor. They had a little, you know, moment, I feel like. But yeah, so after the dance, Richie comes over and he's quick with it. He grabs up Eve and he's like, your time is over with. You're looking at her for too long. So Eve and Richie are over at the counter just chatting it up, you know, chit-chatting it up. Me personally, Richie is a creep. And it's crazy that they even put this scene in a movie. Basically, he tells her, like, let's get out of here. Let's go somewhere secluded, just me and you. Because, you know, just me and you. Y'all know what type of time he's on. And I feel like Eve had every right to slap Richie, because he was implying that he wanted to hunch. And he was implying that she wanted to hunch too. But she never gave that to him, you know. And she slaps him, and she's like, you know, you're a good man. You don't have to be like this. Act like yourself. You know, don't be cheesy. Don't be sleazy. Like, just be yourself. And, you know, I guess. So after declining Richie's creepy sexual offers, Eve then goes onto the stage and performs her signature song, which is, I'm confused as to why nobody peeped. Like, none of these people have kids that are into dolls. None of these people have kids that have the Eve doll. And then my thing is, Drew bought the doll, knew that it was a collectible, but you never... And I guess that happens, I don't know. But I feel like she should have known. I feel like they would have heard it through like a Christmas commercial, because she did have hype. Eve was the doll that everybody wanted at one point. You get what I'm saying? So it's like, ooh, nobody recognizes the song. But whatever. But going back to when Eve gave Ellen a makeover. So Ellen is just standing there at the party, you know, after Richie kind of, you know, wipes the egg off his face and this, that, and the third. He sees her and he goes up to her and he's like, oh, you know, do you want to, you know, maybe go out? Me personally, I feel like Ellen shouldn't have even glanced in Richie's way. My thing is, though, if the only way you'll talk to me is if I have some makeup on, then we don't need to discuss anything. Because her makeover included maybe her hair being curly and then some makeup. And now you want to give me a glance? No. Like, no. 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 And then honestly, at this point, you're the rebound. After Eve like declined him, now he's going to you. So it's just kind of like, no, I'm not sure it's second choice. You get what I'm saying? Like, that's crazy to me. But you know, Ellen accepts happily because she's been wanting him for a very long time. After everybody is vibing with Eve's song, we then get back home to Eve and Ben about to kiss, and Casey sees it. She flips out. She does the most, you know, and I don't know how to feel about this scene. It's kind of weird to me. I don't know who, I'm not saying that anybody is wrong with how they feel. I'm not saying that Casey doesn't have, you know, the right to feel how she feels, but I will say I don't know how to take on this scene. And the only reason why I feel this way is because my thing is, and I'm gonna read what I wrote. So I put, the only reason why I feel that way is because she didn't really have a problem with Drew, who was actually trying to get Ben to like her, but she has a problem with Eve, who is just generally being nice just because. Eve wasn't even trying to get him to like her. It just happened. I'm also not sure why Casey thinks Eve is purposely trying to get Ben to fall in love with her. It doesn't make any sense to me. There's literally no need for that. It's not like she can stay longer if he falls for her or something, because in the Book of the Dead it says that if a person isn't turned back into the dead within 4 days, they will be permanently human or back. Yeah, so to me, I don't genuinely understand why Eve is the villain to Casey, when I feel as if she should have been putting that into Drew, if that makes sense. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, Drew is what Casey thought Eve was. You know what I'm saying? Like, everything Drew did was because she wanted Ben to like her. Giving that girl that present was, I'm sorry, I don't care what nobody say, she wanted Drew to like her. Inviting them over so that they could have a home cooked meal was because she wanted Drew to like her. I'm so sorry, y'all. I meant to say Ben, so if I say Drew, I'm literally saying Ben. Okay? Sorry. I don't understand why she felt that way about Eve, a doll. You get what I'm saying? Like, it was just weird. But then we end up finding out that Casey's mom went to a doctor's appointment for a checkup and found out that, I'm assuming she had cancer. Casey said they had found something and it was like basically too late. So I'm assuming it's cancer. And it was just caught too late. And that's sad, you know. And then, so I'm just gonna touch in on this a little bit. Drew goes into Ben's office the next day, and she's basically just like, hey, something is off with Eve. And she's like, you know, I went to Ellen and I looked through her paperwork, her application or whatever it's called, and all of it is just off and wrong. And it's like, first of all, are you on a hiring team? No. So why are you going through people's application? Is that like, that's not okay. That's not acceptable. That shouldn't be acceptable. Why are you going through somebody's hiring process type thingy? Or not even hiring, but I feel like that information is for a hiring team only. Why are you looking into her? That's weird. You're just jealous and you're oppressed about Eve. And I don't care what nobody say, because that's weird. But she does say that maybe she's just jealous. But it's like, another thing that kind of like I don't understand with Ben is it never gave he was actually interested in her. And I'm not trying to be shady. I'm not saying that because Eve, it just generally, it seemed like Richie was into her and Richie wanted Ben to be into her. Ooh, what did I say? but it just didn't give he wanted her. I mean, it really honestly didn't give he wanted Eve either until they kissed. But like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Let me know. I don't know. And then her looking into somebody's stuff because you feel like you have competition is weird. But anyway, so in the next scene, we see Eve in the kitchen trying to cook something special for Casey, just like to kind of uplift her spirits, because Casey has been kind of in the dumps for a while now. But, you know, Eve don't know what she's doing. She's in there making a mess. Food's catching on fire. By the time Casey gets home, she sees that, you know, Eve is low-key crashing out and it's a mess in there and the food is on fire. So she gets the fire I cannot say that word. The fire thingy to put the fire out. And then they both like kind of plop on the floor and they're both like sad and exhausted just because they're just going through a lot. You know, Eve is learning about emotions and learning that she can't do everything that she thought she could do. And then Casey is just learning that, like, you have to accept the fact that your mom is not coming back. And not even just like the mom thing, the whole, like, the fact that life goes on, to be honest. Life does not stop. And it doesn't. And it's a sad concept to learn and understand, especially as a child, but it is true. Life goes on. It doesn't mean that you need to rush your grieving process, but life does go on. You know, so they have a moment. They sit up there and they connect off of like their emotions. You know, so you know, I love this because I feel like Eve is learning that it's okay not to be perfect, and that is okay. And I feel like they generally are just helping each other learn how to be okay with how life is going, no matter the circumstances of the situation. I love that for them. They're really being each other's whatever they need in that moment, you know. So I think that's cool. This is a side note before I get into it. I'm not really sure why Eve is stressing about her doll being discontinued or not when she literally is a human now. So to me, I feel like it wouldn't even matter if she went back or not, but that's just a side note. I forgot to say this, but earlier before Casey's game, Eve was literally getting ready for the day to start, and she's watching the news, and she's seen that her Eve doll was on the decline on sales and stuff like that. So they were going to get pulled from stores, and, you know, they were just going to get pulled everywhere. And that like stressed her out, made her freak out, and it scared her. I don't know why I didn't say that. Sorry. So today is Wednesday, the day of the playoffs, and Ben is at work waiting for the trial to be over, the verdict of the case. When he realizes his daughter needs him more, which is, we love when people come to term that they're not the only ones they need to be worried about, you know. But so he drops everything and he heads to the game. And then Eve, because she was worried about her doll being discontinued, she had went to the last page bookstore, right, in hopes to getting the book that she would need to get back to, you know, her world. But after she stops at the bookstore, she ends up going to the football game where she tries to tell Ben goodbye, but of course he couldn't hear her. We pan back on the football game where Casey's team does not win, this is probably really bad for me to say, but I kind of like in movies when the main character doesn't win their sports game, because it's like we are so like used to like the main character always winning on their team. So it's refreshing to see them not win, because you can't win at everything in life. I think that is kind of like, I feel like movies kind of give kids false hopes in life. And I feel like if you don't have people in your life that like really can tell you and teach you how life is, you're gonna think your life is supposed to be like a movie or a TV show, and that sucks, because you can't lose at everything in life, but you cannot win in everything in life. And it's like every time we see a movie, we see, you know, Sarah and her team win, the main character. We see Tiffany and her team win, every character. We see Zach and his team win every time. You kind of feel like, hey, well, maybe life is all about just winning. and no losing. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I just think that sometimes it's okay for a team not to win. So after Casey's team loses, her dad go to see where Eve went. This lady tells them that Eve found the book and had somebody read it to her, and she is going home. After hearing this, Casey tells her dad that they need to go find Eve before she has a mental breakdown. We turn back to Eve, who is now at the Marathon toy shop where she is from. She looks around at her home before she says the chant she was told to say. Me personally, I don't understand how Eve could have sent herself home. I feel as if that's something only the person who summons you should be able to do. So Eve, I'm sorry, and this is not to trap her in the real world, but I genuinely feel as if Casey should have, you know, come to terms with the fact that, like, Eve just needs to go home. She wants to go home. Let her go home. Summon her back. That would have made more sense, because I feel like it also would have helped Casey learn how to just let things go. I feel like that would have been a good message for her, because she did get attached to Eve. She didn't want Eve to leave. And then to turn around and be like, you can have good moments and learn how to let things go. Learn how to let things flow. You get what I'm saying? So I think that they should have done that, but they didn't. And Eve was able to summon herself back. Which is, me personally, I just genuinely don't think she would have wanted to go back, because she didn't have a bad life. Like, I feel like outside of the things that she couldn't control, when she was like, it was easy to get her to understand that, like, hey, you can't be perfect here. So it wasn't like it was something that she couldn't handle. You get what I'm saying? Like, it would have been different. It was like every turn it was bad. People treated her wrong, you know. She couldn't get anything right. But no, people did treat her right. I don't think anybody was rude to her, actually. And even though she didn't understand stuff, there were still things that she was really good at doing. So it wasn't like she failed at everything. I don't think personally she should have wanted to go home. But that's neither here or there. But okay, so she ends up chanting for herself to go home, and then we pan back to Casey and Ben, who gets there just in time to basically say goodbye to her. And that's when Ben realizes, oh, my daughter wasn't a liar. She really did summon this doll. So then, you know, we get the crying scene, and then Eve goes home, and that is the end of the movie. Literally, that is the end of the movie. Two side notes. The first side note is, I love how human Eve's hair changes a lot. But honestly, I think it's funny that her, like, human Eve hair changes so much, because the Eve doll, her hair did not change. It was long and kinky, and that was it. But human Eve had straight, short, colored hair. You get what I'm saying? I think that was kind of funny, but interesting, because they allowed her to kind of, you get. And then, so the second thing is, and I'm gonna read verbatim what I said. I do feel like she should have stayed. She isn't the only doll. We literally saw a woman with multiple dolls in a gift shop. You know what I'm saying? Eve wasn't the only doll. She was a doll purchased at a store while 100 more dolls were. Her saying there wouldn't be any more dolls doesn't make sense. Plus, the Eve doll was going down in sales way before Eve became human. So the ending doesn't make sense whatsoever. And okay, literally, when Eve, towards the ending of the movie, when Eve was trying to figure out, like, what's going on with my life, she literally saw a woman taking Eve dolls out of the window. Meaning that there are multiple Eves. Eve, like, human Eve was not the original. So I don't genuinely understand why she felt like if she didn't go back, Eve dolls would stop being created. No. I will say that Eve said she had to go back because she had to give the advice that she had learned from Casey's generation and bring it into the newer generation for the girls' dolls or whatever. I don't understand that, because that would imply that Eve the doll was created by Eve the doll. You see what I'm saying? Like, Eve is a doll. So if Eve is going back to give information to the other dolls, that would imply that Eve, the doll, created herself, which is not possible. So there again, it does not make any sense to me why Eve felt like she had to go back. I really wish they would have made a 2. I really do. I think that would have been cool to see. And that would have answered a lot of information from the first one, because it does not make sense. Eve should have just stayed. I'm sorry. I think a part of me just wanted her to stay. She did not have to be with Ben. I'm not saying that she needed to be with Ben. I feel like she could have been a mother figure for Casey, because Casey needed that mother figure, and they just fit. You know, they just fit good together. And I feel like Eve could have been that mother figure for Casey. There didn't need to be any love relationships between Eve and Ben. No. Just that simple. And then I said, like, for example, Fat Albert, the movie Fat Albert. Fat Albert not being able to stay in the real world works because he was the only Fat Albert there was. Fat Albert literally came out of the TV from the cartoon itself. So it was like, yeah, well, he needed to go back because that was the only cartoon there was. But Eve would have came, if Eve would have came from a TV, yeah, that would make sense because, like, you're the face of it, but you're not. Or if she was the only Eve doll at the time, maybe it was like the first prototype, or it was back when Eve first was created and something happened where she popped into life. That would have made more sense. But having a doll out of 3,000 dolls come to life wouldn't have changed the outcome of the Eve doll at the end of the day. I don't care what nobody says. There was no need for her to go back. I don't think she should have went back, and I don't think she should have been in a relationship with Ben, just because at the end of the day, Eve is a doll. Or even if she isn't a doll anymore, her mind is not of human mind. So for them to be in a relationship, that would have been weird and a little creepy, because it's like a sex doll. You get what I'm saying? Like that. That wouldn't have worked. But I do think that Eve could have been there for Casey. She could have been that mother figure for Casey because they got along so good. Also, I want to say that you can't sit up here and say that, oh no, because she would have took the spot of Drew. But to be honest, outside of Drew exchanging or giving Casey the doll and her messing up her room, there was no exchange of any type outside of that. We don't even know if Ben and Drew are together or decided to be together or nothing, because they didn't feed us that. So at the end of the day, it wouldn't have mattered if Eve stayed or not. To be honest, it wouldn't have. I think that even if they said F it and decided to make it a romance movie, and they would have made Eve and Ben relationship, I feel like that would have worked better, because we actually seen him like Eve. We did not really see him take an interest in Drew, and I feel like that's why they didn't put too much effort into Drew and Ben. But I do think that Eve should have stayed, been that mother figure for Casey, and it should have just been that. I don't think that she should have been turned back into a doll, because it wasn't needed. It just was not needed. But the movie was not bad. I do not remember the movie being like that at all. Again, this movie came out in 2000. I was literally born in 2000. So I know I have watched this movie before though, but I probably only watched it once. Literally, I just found out this movie was on Disney yesterday, that being January 4th. I literally just found out that movie was on Disney Plus. So I'm like, yeah, you know, I was watching this movie and I started thinking about the movie My Date with the President's Daughter, and I was gonna look at that movie next, but it's not on here. It's not on Disney, and I'm not paying for no other subscriptions to watch one movie. I'm not doing that. So yeah, but I enjoyed the movie. I think the movie was I'd say 7 out of 10. Yeah, I think it could have been done a little differently. It wasn't bad, but I think it could have been done a little differently. Also, I feel like, I'm not even gonna say that. But so yeah, so that's the end of this video. Leave your thoughts and opinions on my thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Make sure you check out my last video where I talked about, I don't even know what I talked about last video. Oh, Let It Shine. And yeah, in the next video I will be talking about the series Twilight. So I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.